to this week's edition of Patriots Playback. I'm David Stearns, joined as always with Brian Schrems. Here we're talking about 3 out of 4 points taken away from the East Coast Eagles this past weekend on the road down in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's got to be a good feeling to finally get that first win underneath their belt on Sunday.
Yeah, the monkey's off the back, partially off the back now. I got to grab a couple of home wins after the showcase against Hampton Roads, but first and foremost, 3 out of 4 points isn't bad. We talked with the players and the coaches last weekend, and 4 points would have been the ideal, but I don't think Coach Newton is going to be too displeased with what he saw. It sounded like the players were recognizing their mistakes and needed to step up the intensity, and didn't get the result on Saturday that they wanted to, and came out flying on Sunday and did what they had to do. And I think we're starting to see this team gel a little bit. I think we're starting to develop some chemistry, get some lines solidified here, and something that we can move forward with for the rest of the season.
Yeah, what started out as a well-balanced, kind of an edge towards the Potomac Patriots side of the house on Saturday, starting out the first period up 14-7 in shots to close out the period, but no score on the board. Second period was where all the action really was when the Patriots' Josh Maltz potted 2 goals to make it 2-1 after going down 1-0, but it was Jordan Hall that tied it up halfway through the third period, and then East Coast nailing down the shootout win as they had to go to extra time. Quite an interesting weekend there as Dustin Moyer was on the losing end of it, though, but he played a phenomenal game, seeing 39 shots, stopping 37. A veteran goaltender like that leading things in enemy territory there on the road at East Coast, the team that we always talk about as kind of the equal kind of like playing style rival, not a physical knockout brawl kind of rival, but one team you'd expect to really match up evenly and pretty much give a good show and a good run with it with Potomac. It looked like it was a pretty solid showing against a goaltender they've seen in the past, Frank Cundiff. So.
Yep.
I mean, not too shabby there. The goaltending save percentages were right on line with what we were expecting between those two, but unfortunately they walk away with 1 point. But Sunday was definitely a difference maker for these guys.
No, it really was, and you have to think of it like this. You go out and see a team for the first time this season, a team that you're going to see again. You get familiar with them on Saturday, go out there and adjust yourself for Sunday. But like you and I said for, I don't know, the past 2 years, it's the Eagles that match up the most balanced. I'm not going to make up a word. I'm just going to restructure my sentence. It's the team that's most balanced with the Potomac Patriots, and looking at the rap sheet from Saturday and Sunday, it appears to be the case. And like you said, it's not a physical all-out brawl affair. We'll save those for Richmond in the upcoming months. But it's 2 evenly balanced teams that you have to wonder if it's going to be a dogfight for the playoffs this year, and these two teams are going to be in the mix.
And if anything, you can call it a chess match, as you will, because it's just methodically putting one play against another. And then, on Sunday, as we saw kind of a flip of things, Brian Parsons got the call in net and seeing 35 shots. And his counterpart on the other side was another goalie that I believe we're familiar with, if I am not mistaken, Brandon Brown, who has been with this organization. He got the start in goal. And Patriots walk away with a 4-3 victory. And to start things off, none other than Josh Maltz putting in his 4th goal of the regular season at the back of the net to start things off in the first period. So Potomac had a lead for the entire game except for early on in the third period where it was tied at 2. But and then they took a lead again, 3-2, and then they tied it up 3-3. So the game winner on the stick of Nick Gray, who is second in scoring for this team behind Josh Maltz, the former Hampton Roads Whaler. These 2 players standing at the top of the score sheet, but a silent third in the back there who is really making his presence known, got a shorthanded goal. That's Mikey Carr.
Yeah, it's nice to see a mix of players in there. Nick Gray and Mikey Carr have been with the organization. Josh Maltz came up from Hampton Roads and joined this team this year. But you always wonder about chemistry. Former opponents. Now you have 3 former opponents. now into the fold in the Potomac Patriots organization, you always wonder about the chemistry, about who they're going to play well with. Obviously, you're going to want to keep the players from Hampton together as much as you can, but Coach Newton's finding out that it might be ideal to split these guys up here a little bit.
Yeah, don't give too much away here, as we're going to talk with the players here in a moment, and Coach Creech about pretty much the chemistry of this team right now. It looks like things may be on the up and up, but we'll talk about our concerns about the showcase on the other side of the interview. So why don't we just go right into it? We'll start off with Devin Melise, or Melise, I beg your pardon, and then we'll go to Liam Walsh and then finish out with Coach Creech, and we'll meet you back here on the other side. So let's start off with Devin Melise.
Joined now by forward Devin Melise. Devin, new to the team this year, a 97, a youngster. Hopefully we're going to have you around for a long time. Can you give us, and can you give the people listening, a little background story about where you played before, your position out on the ice, and maybe like the style of play that you have? Are you more of a grinder, or do you like to be considered more of a playmaker, goal scorer? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm more of like a playmaker type player. I guess I score as well, but mostly I'm more of a playmaker.
And the position you play out on the ice naturally?
Oh, yeah. I'm a left winger.
Okay. And your playing experience up to this point, are you local to this area, or did you travel to get here?
No, I'm local. I've lived here my whole life, so.
Okay. And your previous playing experiences with who?
Yep. It was also left wing. That I played for in Ashburn as a U16.
Okay. And then tell me a little bit about the team itself. Is there somebody out on the ice that you are clicking with, somebody that you're developing a little bit of chemistry with early on in the season that Coach has you with consistently?
Yeah, I've been clicking with Mikey Carr and the Russian Stas Serchenik quite a bit, but we'll see how that goes.
And is there a player that you kind of model yourself after, maybe an NHL player that you really try and take your game to kind of like mirror a little bit?
I guess more like a Joe Thornton.
Okay, cool. That works. Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
All right,
thank you.
I got some questions too, so don't go too far here. So Joe Thornton, great choice of a player. Hey, you guys took 3 out of 4 points this past weekend against East Coast. Talk about your first road experience there in a league game setting, and talk about how everything unfolded this past weekend. We got to break you to talk here a little bit more. That's what we do with you guys. How did it go this past weekend?
We definitely dominated most of the games. Definitely the first game. I'd say we played better, but we couldn't put the puck in the net, and just some calls just didn't go our way. So it was just one of those kind of games where none of the bounces were going your way.
Now, what was the difference between Saturday and Sunday? It sounded like you guys had the intensity there Saturday, and then you guys just had such a convincing game on Sunday. What was it? I know that last week Coach Andy was talking about switching some things up with lines. How did it feel out there? Was there more chemistry compared to the first weekend against Richmond?
Yeah, I felt way more comfortable this weekend for sure, but on Sunday, I guess we could find the back of the net, so that made a huge difference. We produced, so.
Yeah, and how's practice going this week, leading up to the showcase, going back down to Raleigh?
It's going pretty good. Stepping up a little bit, making a little bit of changes, more intensity and stuff. So getting better every week.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, and good luck this coming weekend in the showcase, Mr. Melise.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Joined on by forward Liam Walsh. Liam, new to the Potomac Patriots this year, a 97, so a youngster. You're going to be here for a while, we hope. Enjoyed what you put out on the ice that first weekend. Seemed like you a bit of a grinder mentality, a bit of a workhorse. But give people an idea of who you are, where you've played previous. Are you local? Did you travel to get here? And your style of play. Are you a playmaker, a sniper, a grinder? Tell us everything you can about yourself.
All right. Well, last year I lived away and I played at up at Select Hockey Academy at South Kent School, and that was a pretty big school, big team. You know,
Yep.
like we were one of the best teams in the whole U.S. and we went to nationals but lost, and so that was a big upset for us. But the player I like to describe myself as, or like my type of player, basically is like I'd say I'm like a points guy or goal scorer, but lately I just haven't been myself really. But that's who I really am. That's it.
And the situation that you find yourself in right now with Potomac, talk a little bit about your line mates. Who's clicking with you right now? Where's the chemistry coming from?
Well, right now at this practice I just played with Nick Gray and Corey Medeiros, and we did pretty well actually, surprisingly. I haven't played with those two guys. I played with them on separate lines, but now that we're together, it's looking pretty well right now. So. Okay.
And just to give everybody an idea, your natural position at forward is?
I'm a winger, left wing.
Okay. Stearns, you got a few.
So we got a second left winger here on the call. So talk a little bit about this past weekend against East Coast, your first kind of regular season road experience down there in Raleigh, North Carolina. You guys took 3 out of the 4 points, and what did you see out there that really worked well for you guys? Was it the new line combinations that Coach Andy came up with, or what was it? Because East Coast is a rival, if you will, in a lot of ways with Potomac. But what was it that worked well for you guys?
Well, we had lots of intensity in the offensive zone, and we were just crashing the net with the puck and getting it deep and just hounding it, and basically just owning them in their zone.
Now, go ahead. Sorry.
That's all.
Oh, okay. Well, I did ask Mr. Melise before the difference between Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, just a shootout loss, but what was it that helped you guys get a convincing win on Sunday to turn things around and finally bring you guys to a great position going into next weekend's showcase?
Well, I think our main focus is how we come out in the first period, because that's the most important. Because however we perform in the first is how we carry on for the rest of the game, and I think on Saturday we came out pretty slow, and that's why the result was a loss, basically, I'd say. But on Sunday our start was a little better, our pregame focus was better, so that's why we came out with the win.
Give us some insight on what you saw with the goaltending situation now. You guys had Isaac Ritchell that came into net there, so how did that all play out for you guys, and what did that speak to you as a forward?
Well, I mean, I think we have some pretty good goalies back there, and, they're a big part of the team. And it's pretty hard having 3 goalies with all the ice time. Some guys don't play at all, and I just think, if a guy's doing well in practice or well in game, then he should be able to play and, keep us on the scoreboard and all that.
I just stand corrected. It was Parsons that was in net. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It was a slip of the name there, but yeah. So the situation. Moyer and Parsons split on the weekend there. But was it a different feel? I mean, obviously Moyer has the experience with the Patriots prior, and then you and Ritchell and Parsons are new to the fold. How does it feel now? Moving forward with your goalies. What can you tell us about the goalies from your perspective as a forward?
Well, I just think they're all. We have a pretty good goaltending lineup, basically. I'd say that. Like Moyer with the experience, I think he's teaching the other tendies how to, just how to play at this level, and I think it's important for them to have him as like a peer. Mm-hmm. And basically that's it. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Liam, and good luck this weekend in the showcase.
Thank you.
Joined finally by Coach Creech. Coach, good things coming out of this weekend. We were looking for 2 wins. We've got 3 out of the 4 points that were available to us. Talk a little bit about the change that was made heading into this upcoming weekend on the road.
I'd say overall, I mean, like I touched base with you guys last week about just the team itself trying to become a team. And I think Saturday definitely saw a little more of that. Guys were gelling better. It was more of a team approach and not so much I'm going to try to get stats for my stat sheet to look well. That's been something we've been trying to touch with them is, it's the 2 points for the team or the 4 points in the weekend that matter most, not the individual.
Talk a little bit about the dynamic of a team such as the Potomac Patriots. You have returners, you have former opponents, and you have brand new kids coming into the fold. as a coach, what are you looking to do in the first couple games of the season to get that team gelling the way that you would like them to for the remaining games that you're going to be seeing?
I mean, I would think for the biggest part, especially as you spoke about the opposing, or kids that have come from other teams, Addy, Malty, and Patriots, them coming from the Hampton Roads Whalers, and especially them being a Virginia team and being a rival, so to speak. I think it was definitely a little weird for those three when they first got here, but I think as a whole the team definitely accepted them, and it didn't take long at all. So that's very important for just to get those guys to feel like they are at home. They are a Potomac Patriot, and where they played previously is a thing of the past now.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about this upcoming weekend. You've had a homestand. You've been on the road. Is there anything that you're looking to do? Is there one glaring aspect of the Patriots that you want to improve upon? Whether it be discipline, whether it be shots. What's the coaching staff saying about this upcoming showcase?
I mean, we got 4 games, and obviously they're league games, so they're very important. We can come out with 8 points, that'd be great. Obviously, that's a very high bar we're setting for the boys, but that's what we expect out of them because, we know that they can play at this level and very high and, out-compete components that they play together as a team. And that's where the discipline definitely comes in. We actually had a talk with them earlier. Well, Monday we spoke with them briefly, and then after practice Monday, they actually, me and Andy stepped out of the locker room and sort of let them talk to each other as a team and just, calling people out. You're not doing this, and people just individually saying, I need to do this to, help out the team as a whole.
And to touch briefly on what we talked about last week, the goaltending seems to be like a platooning basis at this point in time. Is that the expectation for the remainder of the season, or are you looking for one goaltender to jump up? You have 3 in the fold right now. Are you looking for one goaltender to step up and take the job, or are you comfortable with the platoon situation between Parsons and Moyer?
I mean, it's definitely having 2 goalies at their level, and especially with the experience they both bring to the table, is obviously a positive note for the coaching staff. But at the same time, it definitely makes our job harder when we got 2 guys that, even in practice, they're they have that edge to their game where it's a game situation, and that's something we spoke about with them as well. Every time we step on that ice, take it as it is a game situation because, there's only one goalie that goes in the net to start the game, and there's 3 of you guys out here.
Right.
So who wants it more is pretty much what it comes down to.
Right. Lastly for me, and then I'll throw to Stearns for a few. Can you give us a player or 2 that has stepped up over the course of the last couple of weeks here and has really proven themselves and somebody that you want to see get more ice time to show their teammates and show the fans that they're worthy of being out there earning top 6 minutes? Sorry to put you on the spot. That's a bit of a loaded question, but you can say pass and we can edit that out if you want to.
Yeah, I'm going to have to pass on that one, guys.
That's fine. That's fair.
Oh.
Well, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Yeah,
officially.
Sure. Okay, well, good. Now I have my turn out of here. Okay, so we just talked with Liam Walsh, and he was mentioning that he's being paired up there. Well, not paired up out there, but being stitched into a line here with Gray and Medeiros. Talk a little bit about that decision. I know that sounds like a very powerful line. I know that's something that's new, that's being experimented with here during the last couple of practices leading into the showcase weekend. Talk a little bit about the fluidity of that line and where it leaves the other lines combinations, if you will.
I mean, the reason we've me and Andy sort of come down to putting Walsh, Gray, and Medeiros together is, Walsh brings a lot to the table. He really does, even for his age, which is surprising probably to most people. We knew going into the season, even seeing him at tryouts and We had a college junior skate all summer, and he was at the majority of the times. We knew he definitely had the chance to be a top 6 player. It's not something that we were going to give him. He definitely had to earn that, and as a whole right now, he has. He's a tough kid. He's fast. He seems to have really good hockey IQ. And putting him with 2 guys like Gray and Medeiros, I think is just going to better his game. With 2 veteran guys who are very good at what they do. And just putting Washington in that situation, I think, is just overall going to help his game out for the future. And those guys together, I think, they can definitely produce some points for us.
Now, any surprises from anybody during this week in practice? I mean, has anyone stood out to you guys that's pretty much somebody that is looking to have a breakout weekend in the showcase? You got some really tough opponents coming up with Tampa and Palm Beach and Florida, and I guess maybe we shouldn't discount Atlanta because they had a good history. Last year was kind of uncharacteristic of them, but 4 potentially very challenging opponents. What player out there on the ice are you and Coach Andy seeing as somebody that could potentially break out?
Honestly, this week in practice so far, nobody's necessarily stood out. At least my opinion, I think as a whole, everybody's just played well. They're really, really starting to gel as a team. And I don't necessarily just want one player standing out. I do want the whole team. I don't want to just have to count on one guy. Even though we will find ourselves in a situation at times later in the season. So I think overall, just this week of practice, I can't really pick anybody out necessarily. Just as a whole, everybody was clicking and falling into the systems that we've been working with finally. So I'm excited for the weekend. Hopefully, that's where the discipline comes in. That terms that I asked you about earlier, they're finally starting to, take grasp of everything, and the discipline's starting to come. When we say something, they're starting to grasp it, and if they have questions as well, we've always preached, when we explain something, do you have any questions? And everybody's like, oh no. Early in the season, we were sort of just like, okay, and then we get in the drill, and guys are screwing things up, and now people are being they're holding each other accountable is really what it comes down to. If they're not knowing something, they're not keeping their mouth shut and then screwing it up, they're coming to us right away. And that was what I saw a lot this week at practice. So definitely excited for the showcase, and hopefully the boys can implement the systems that we taught them this week and get out there and get some W's.
Hey, speaking of systems, I do got to ask the question, looking at pretty much the score sheet on how things shook out this past weekend, one of the concerns on the prior weekend was special teams. How much work has been put into it? Because it looks like the boys went 0 for 3 on Sunday, and this has got to be a mistake. Maybe it's not a mistake. It's just no power play opportunities at all on Saturday. Was there much work on the power play? Because I know going up against a team like the Florida Eels and Palm Beach, it's got to be something of a concern, especially when you talked earlier about discipline. And if you guys end up shorthanded, or if you guys are on the power play side of things, what kind of work did you guys do, and are the systems ready to go?
Power play and PK, we didn't really touch too much this week. It's obviously something we do work on throughout the course of the week. But it's sort of tough just because you put the PK out there, they know what our power play is going to do. Our power play gets frustrated, so we didn't really touch much on it this week. The biggest thing system-wise that we went over, and that's actually what we worked on practice today, was our D zone coverage. Guys, not chasing around with the puck so much. I believe the first goal on Saturday was because of that very reason. Guys were puck watching and chasing the puck, and all it does in turn is leave an open guy. So we're very, very adamant about our D zone coverage today. We worked on it all practice, and just guys, shifting where they need to shift and not chasing the puck. If this guy goes high, this guy steps out. When the puck goes back low, this guy steps in. Out guy steps out. That's pretty much what we worked on today, all practice. So hopefully, they, like I said, they look like they're starting to get it. But it won't be any time until game time comes.
I'm going to jump back in for one more question to redeem myself here. So, Coach, the one thing I was curious about, and I know it happens a lot at the pro level, you see it, but you don't really think about it. Player like Trajanic, coming from overseas, can you talk a little bit about the challenges and the successes that you have with players, not necessarily him, but coaching someone who is unfamiliar with not only the system, but sometimes the language, the culture, things like that. And what are you doing to acclimate him and get him a part of the Patriots? He seems to be like a valuable asset to you. He potted himself a goal this past weekend, first of the season. So it seems like you want to get more of that. What are you guys doing to work with Turgenev to get him up to speed?
Well, obviously there is the language barrier, but he knows. He sort of plays the dumb card sometimes. He know the English, but I mean he understands a lot more than he likes to give himself credit for, I guess. But for the most part, we obviously with the language barrier being there, it's a lot for him is telling him, hey, watch this. This is what you're going to do. You're playing center. Watch the center on this line. Watch what he does, the decisions he makes, and sort of just sort of shadowing him. Not necessarily shadowing, but just watching him and try to implement that when he goes out there. He's definitely an asset to the team. He's got hands. I don't know how he does it sometimes, but he seems to always come out of the corner with the puck. 2 or 3 guys in there, and he'll pop out with it. So I mean, for the most part, when it comes to just communicating with him, there's a lot of having him watch us, and then some of the stuff that we can give him to understand, speaking to him, it does happen, and obviously, hopefully that'll get better over the season. I think he's actually taking an English class to help with his speaking, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see how that goes as the season goes on.
Sure. Thank you very much, sir.
Any final concerns going into the upcoming weekend? Anything crazy? Or you guys feel like you're ready to go with one last practice?
I'd say after today, I mean, there's definitely a positive, just as a whole, there is a positive atmosphere of practice. A lot of the bickering that is sort of going on at practice through the players thus far in the season is sort of toned down. I think a lot of that had to do with the conversation the team had together yesterday. And that's just my biggest thing, being a former player, team means everything. These guys are your brothers and stuff like that. So the sooner they get to thinking like that, which I think they're starting to make that turn, the better outcomes we're going to see throughout the season. So if they go on this weekend with a positive attitude, obviously me and Andy are going to be pushing that and just tell them to stay in the systems that we've worked on all week. And there's no reason we can't come out of this weekend with 6 or 8 points.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Coach Creech, and hopefully we're talking 6-8 points next week when we catch up on Wednesday.
Absolutely, guys.
So there we have it from our 2 players, Devin Melise and Liam Walsh, along with assistant coach Zach Creech, filling us in on pretty much the happenings of last weekend and what to expect this coming week. And it sounds like a very productive week of practice. The attitude is changing out there on the ice. Typically, a win will do that for your club.
Yeah, and what I like most about what Creech said is that the players are coming out of their shells a little bit. They're asking more questions. They're clarifying things out on the ice, and those little things that you ask about in practice or work on in practice and kind of perfect, they show out on the ice. And obviously, he's pleased with what he's seen from his players. The maturity game is coming along just as much as the physical aspect of hockey itself. So there's always 2 sides to this game. Mentally it's just as important as the physical aspect of it.
Yeah, with a young team with previous experience and the former players of opponents teams, the former opponents, and then now the 97s and all that. So it's a hodgepodge, this team, if you look at it from head to toe. You got the veteran leadership, as we were talking with Liam Walsh about Dustin Moyer and kind of leadership he brings there to the between the pipes, for the other 2 goalies that are just getting their starts out here. And
defense too. Don't forget about the returners from defense.
No,
big time names back there.
Yep. I was going to say Medeiros, but no. Mendoza, of course, back there on the blue line again, and you also have Ian Edgington as well. So, it's a good mix. It's a good bunch, and what I'm looking forward to is how they handle this upcoming weekend in the showcase down in Raleigh, North Carolina. The two opponents that have me concerned right off the bat are the last two opponents that they see in the showcase. They start off with Tampa and Atlanta. Tampa was a team that they were in a four-way tie last year to finish out the season. So it's they're an equal, but they rarely see them. It's always the showcases that they see each other. But Atlanta, we're no longer seeing them as regularly as we used to, given the fact now that we have Richmond nearby. So they've replaced Atlanta on the schedule for the Potomac Patriots. So it'll be showcases for them. But Palm Beach and Florida, top two teams from last season, and proverbial top two teams as you'll go back in seasons past. They got to finish that showcase with those two teams, and definitely not two teams to sneeze at.
No, and it's two teams that have given them trouble in the showcases in the past. You always associate non-hockey markets with teams that aren't really up to par with everybody else. That's not the case in Florida, as we've seen over a variety of different leagues. Mm-hmm. And they seem to keep chugging along here. You always wonder, like, oh, is there going to be a lull in Florida or Tampa? But there never seems to be. You don't have that rebuilding year where the Patriots could sneak an easy 2 or 4 points away from a showcase. They keep coming every single year. They got a good hockey program down there. They're going to have to be on their toes and take advantage of every opportunity this upcoming weekend. And Coach said, at least 6 points, if not 8. And it's a tall task, but certainly. I want to say this team is up for it. There's something special about these guys, and as they continue to grow this season, it's going to be a lot more fun to watch.
Yeah, what I'm especially impressed with is the showing of Josh Maltz here. Just a well-rounded player, from top to bottom here with 4 goals and 3 assists to start things out, and he's so well balanced here, and he fits out there with these guys, a mix of new guys and old guys and guys he's familiar with in seasons past. But you talk about players that he's gelling well with. It's going to be fun to watch what kind of combinations he works with now that we're talking that we got a line being drummed up with Walsh and Gray and Medeiros. So the thing is, where does Maltz go next? I mean, that combination. Are we talking that Turchanek is going to move up to a second line? I mean, I'm excited to see what his potential is because he was one of the guys that everyone was kind of scratching their heads about. Like, who is this guy? Barely speaks any English, but he's. I don't know if it's a Russian thing or what. He kind of is deceptive in a lot of ways out there, in practice, and then suddenly just blows everyone away in game time situations.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Cenk has a lot of things going against him, in a non-hockey sense. Just becoming familiar with the culture, the style of play, I'm sure is far different than what he's used to in Russia. Just getting acclimated with hockey in itself. He's got the hockey sense. It seems like he's got the scoring ability. We saw that this past weekend. Mm-hmm. Potted himself his first goal of the season. But I'm kind of with you on this one. We saw flashes of brilliance when he was out on the ice in the opening weekend at Prince William. So I'm kind of curious to see how this develops and where he can elevate his game this season.
Now, where do you think Coach goes with goaltending? I mean, obviously with Parsons and the win underneath his belt, he may go with him on his first start. But do you think he just rolls with the hot goalie? I mean, that's one thing that I have kind of nagging me here because Moyer's got the experience against all these teams that we're coming up against. But Parsons looks like he's earning his stripes here.
Yeah, no, and it was good to see Parsons get out there and get a win. We saw him chase in that first game that we called in the season, and Moyer came in relief and did a bang-up job. But like Coach Creech said tonight, it's both a blessing and a hindrance. Sometimes you want to have two capable goaltenders that can carry you through a season. That's a gift, but having to choose between the two of them, it's kind of the challenge of the coaching job. I'm assuming not a challenge I would personally want myself, but it's if you toggle them and take a hot hand when it comes to you, or don't. I think they have enough confidence in both of them to get them through the season, and in any way, shape, or form that they choose. But it's let's take advantage of two plausible starters in Potomac Patriots uniforms while we can.
Yeah, one thing that does have me concerned, though, is the way the games are scheduled for the showcase for the Potomac Patriots here. They start out with a 2 o'clock game on Friday, followed by an 8 o'clock game on Friday as well. So they start with Tampa and then Atlanta on the same day, just mere hours apart from each other. So maybe we do see Parsons to start and then Moyer play cleanup in the Atlanta game, or vice versa, or But the all-important game there, Saturday, no doubleheader. So you got an 8 o'clock game at night against Palm Beach, and then 1:30 in the afternoon on Sunday to close out against Florida. It'll be interesting to see how Coach Andy approaches the goaltending situation for that weird situation with the schedule on Friday. So
well, you have to think that he's looking at it from the vantage point as I have two viable goaltenders who can easily do 3 of the games this weekend, but just to spread ourselves out a little bit and not get too worn out between the pipes, why not give them their fair share? Mm-hmm. I don't think too many teams in the league are running with two starting goaltenders, a 1A and 1B, I guess.
Yeah, is
the lingo.
And do you think it's got to be in the back of his mind too? I know we're talking about him in the third person here since we didn't talk to him this week, but you got to think he's also got to have it in the back of his mind that this is all prep for the big weekend at home on the other side against Hampton Roads on Columbus Day weekend.
Oh yeah, there's got to be there's got to be a push here in the next couple of weeks to fine tune their game, because you have a team like Hampton Roads coming up. There's a lot more than just a game out on the ice going on. There's former players meeting up with previous teams. There's former coaches meeting up with previous teams. You have to wonder, is this maybe the biggest weekend that we'll see until playoffs? Mm-hmm. I'd like to think that they're going to come out flying that weekend. They are going to come out just hitting everything, taking as many shots as possible, and fortunately for us, we're going to have a broadcast that weekend. We'll be a part of it every step of the way. I know that's the one on the schedule that I have to star by. I'm pretty sure Coach Newton has several hundred stars by it, and we're going to see a team that is ready to take 4 points away from the Whalers that weekend.
Yeah, and it's all the more of a build-up for them when they go back down there in December, and then when they come back up here in January. So it should be a lot of fun, and hopefully these guys, they do a lot of building and a lot of real quality prep work here in this coming showcase, and hopefully they come out without any major injuries in that, and a lot of lessons that they can carry over. So we'll cut it off here, and we'll touch base again next week, hopefully talking about 6 or 8 points under their belts. And either way, we'll be back here with Patriots Playback. Shrems, any final thoughts before we go into the weekend?
No, I don't think so. I'm with Coach Creech on this one. I'm looking for at least 6 points to keep this momentum going a little bit here.
All right, 2 o'clock and 8 o'clock on Friday. That'll be Tampa and Atlanta, respectively. And then Palm Beach and Florida. Palm Beach on Saturday at 8 o'clock, Florida, to round out the showcase at 1:30 on Sunday. All the action, I presume, which is probably correct here, that it will be on fasthockey.com. So tune in there, get your subscription so you can check out all the action as they go down back again to the Polar Ice House, home of the East Coast Eagles, who they take 3 out of 4 this past weekend from. And once again, we will see East Coast at the Prince William Ice Center in November, so we look forward to that. But Hampton Roads is the next set of home games. We'll talk more about that next week after the boys finish out their showcase in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is David Stearns for Brian Shrems here for the Patriots Playback, saying have a great weekend, everybody. Go Patriots, and as always, don't stop believing.
Take care.